All right. So I gave everybody a couple extra minutes because I wanted to make sure that you all got home and situated. I know Monday can be crazy with the rain is awful and traffic was probably horrendous. Luckily my traffic is walking 2 whole blocks, so I didn't have to worry about too much traffic. But tonight's topic is a really good one. Just like the others, we're going to finish out the macronutrients of fats tonight, and we're also going to talk a little bit about digestive health. And this ties into a lot of the questions that I'm starting to get, because as you change your meal plan, things change and move around in your digestive system. It's also important to understand how some of the dietary changes you're making affect your digestive system, what's normal, what's not normal. And so I want to make sure that we have all of that outlined for you guys. So let's see, I need to mute everybody. There we go. All right, I was getting a little bit of feedback. Okay, so first off, I need to share this screen with you guys. There we go. All right. Very, very cool. Everybody see me? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay. So tonight, let's see. Let's figure out why this isn't moving forward. There we go. My favorite quote: for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. I don't have a great story for that this week, but just know that I do have this thing come up every single day, and it just never ever goes away. So I hope this quote begins to mean more things to you guys as we get going, and I hope that you understand that you guys are doing the work and you're making the changes. I'm watching your journals. I'm watching Facebook, and I hear from a lot of you guys, and I chat with a lot of you guys through the week, and I know things are changing. Things are changing, some for the good. Sometimes things change in a direction maybe we don't want them to change, but in the end, for things to change, you have to change, and you guys are doing that. And I am so grateful that you guys are doing the work. It really makes me feel very inspired by you guys when I know you're doing good work and you're loving what you're doing and you're getting good results. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about, I don't know why this isn't working on my side. Oh. Okay, we're going to review last week's topic, which was carbs and fiber. We're going to talk a little bit about some questions that you guys had. I had some really, really good questions on carbs and sugar last week that we're going to talk about. Then, of course, tonight's topic is going to be on fats and digestive health. And there's going to be a really cool little quiz in the fats section. So be sure that you grab your pen and paper so you can take notes on that. And then we'll talk about a couple little next steps and get to the questions. A couple little graphics on our fats and digestive health. And so a review of last week, week 3, we talked about carbs. We broke carbs into 2 sections. Sugar is our first section. We talked about the definition of carbohydrate as any organic compounds, including sugar, starches, cellulose, and gums. They are the major source of energy for animals. In animals, it is recommended that 40 to 50% of your calories come from carbohydrates. And so we talked a little bit about MyFitnessPal. Now that you have your overall calorie budget and you had your protein number right from your meal plan, you should be able to go back in now and use the little slide rule and set your carbohydrates to 50% at the most, and then let fats fall where they're going to fall. And that's going to help balance everything out. And as we were talking before we started the recording with Melissa, it really does show you where just small things in your diet can really throw that out of whack. And so getting really tight and really familiar with food and food sources and food exchanges is really, really critical at this stage. Not that you're going to stay this restricted forever, but at least right now, you need to make an effort to stay within that budget so you can really learn what your body does and how it works and how these exchanges really, really change things. Do carbohydrates make me fat? Absolutely not. They give you energy, but it's really, really important to understand the types of carbohydrates because there's so many carbs out there that are dangerous. And that's what's really giving carbohydrates a bad name. today. Sugar comes in many forms. We see it in just about every form you can possibly think of. Last week we talked about all the different names of sucrose and fructose and lactose and maltose, all those different things that are sugars that convert to glucose in the bloodstream, because glucose is what the body uses for its energy source. And so all these sugars, no matter what their name is, will convert to glucose. Now, the major concern about sugars is really the added sugars. Those are things that add empty calories. They have absolutely no nutritional value to them. They're typically very high in calories. You see the graphic there with the candy bar. Those are nothing but added sugars, kind of bound together by fats, and hardly any protein, if any at all. And these things are really, really bad for your blood insulin levels. We talked about all the reasons why this is really bad for your blood insulin. And these are the triggers that are really spiking our diabetic, just the diabetic outrage that's going on in our country and in our world right now. And so then we talked a little bit about glycemic index. It's really important to understand this piece, because although some things don't seem to be harmful, what happens with glycemic index is the sugars that are in these foods cause the blood sugar to spike at a really high rate and then fall at a really quick rate, which in turn triggers the body to feel like it's hungry again. So if you eat a product or a food that has a high glycemic index, then it will feel full really quickly, and then it will get hungry really quickly. So you see that red line, that's a GL of over 70, ranked over 70, and you'll see on that red column there, those are items that are high glycemic index. Now you think some of them seem kind of harmless, like a baked potato seems very harmless, and a lot of people, at least I remember my mother, when we were in Weight Watchers, that for lunch we would have a salad and a baked potato. Now I'm realizing that baked potato and a salad is probably the worst thing to have. It's all just high glycemic index potato with no nutritional value and iceberg lettuce, probably with a little bit of salad dressing to add fat on top of it. And now my body doesn't really get anything and is going to be hungry in the next half hour and encourage me to want to eat more. Versus the items that are in the green are a low glycemic index of less than 54. And those things are things like broccolis and peaches and apples and carrots. And so those are the items that you'd want to include in your diets as healthy sugars that help your blood sugars be more stable over the period of time. All right, then we talked about kind of some crazy stuff. This is where it gets really complicated with sugars, but it's really important to know to start looking at nutritive and non-nutritive sweeteners and added sugars. Things like sugar alcohol, which you guys remember is not a sugar, nor is it an alcohol. It is an additive put into foods to make it taste sweeter, and it's always going to be broken out on the food labels over there. It has calories, therefore it must be labeled. And then you have things like sorbitol and mannitol and xylitol and all these other etol things that are just nutritive. They add calories to food, but they are chemical, added to your food for sweet and flavor. And the problem with these is it is a chemical, and so the body doesn't recognize it as a nutrition product, and it will create lots of different, a host of different issues like bloating and digestive issues. And so if you guys remember, and I had another great example this past week with a client out in California who called me, and she's fitting herself up for a fitness competition, and she was really concerned that she was having a bloat problem. She was getting much more bloated feeling and heavy feeling, and we had changed a few things. And when she wrote everything out and sent me some stuff, I had her look back at one of the products she was using. We looked at it, and it actually had an excess amount of aspartame in it, and it had a couple of these other sorbitol and xylitol in it. And she had never had a product with those things in it. And now she's removed that from it. And yesterday she called or sent me a text message and said that her bloating issue had pretty much subsided when she removed that from her diet. So keep in mind these things when you're making healthy choices, trying to lower sugar, they replace those sugars with these fake artificial sweeteners, which can cause digestive discomfort. And so it doesn't necessarily come from adding protein or whatever. It comes from the added sugar additives. Non-nutritive sweeteners, sweetener substitutes, the FDA has approved saccharin and aspartame, a couple of others, and some brand new ones, stevia and monk fruit extract. And by the way, guys, I forgot to mention last week when I went back and looked on the video, if you guys visit Starbucks, which I don't go to Starbucks very frequently, but sometimes clients will want to meet at Starbucks. And I typically get just an unsweetened tea when I go there because I just don't drink a lot of coffee, but I do like their teas. And I noticed the other day that Starbucks has a stevia monk fruit sweetener on their bars. And so I think that's pretty cool. At least here in DC they do. And so I think that's pretty cool that they've made an effort to move to something besides these other chemical non-nutritive sweeteners. And so it's a healthier option. We talked a little bit about some issues with them, but overall it's a healthier option than the others. And the take-home message really was just really start to think about removing some of those artificial sweeteners out of our diets. They're just hidden in everything. Just look at labels and look at labels and look at labels, and you'll see that they are everywhere. Our second topic last week was fiber. Adult men need an average of 35 grams plus per day, women 25 grams plus, and after age 60, that requirement can drop between 5 and 10 grams per day. And so just kind of gauge that depending on your diet. Some people need more. I need more than 35, but I also have more protein. So usually the higher protein you take in, the more digestive fiber your body's going to need. Fiber is broken into two categories. Both are essential. Water-soluble fibers, they delay the time the food passes through the system. They provide fullness to the body, and it slows down the absorption of sugar from the bloodstream. And this is really good because it keeps that blood sugar low, blood sugar even lower than it is, even though you might have had some other sugars in the body. And it's helpful for lowering blood cholesterol levels. Now, water-insoluble fibers, they actually speed up the transfer of food through the intestines, but they trap water and they help relieve constipation. So two different ones. You need both of those in your diets. And then we had a nice little list there of some foods that are really high in fiber so that you could have some good grocery shopping list there. And I actually eat quite a few of those items on the regular. Once you add those to your diet, you realize just how good they are. Kind of going to Melissa's question before we started tonight was on kind of balancing all that and realizing that, you know, just a little bit of shift one way or the other can really throw off your daily plan. And so if you have these items that are really high in fiber and give you really good calories and really good healthy stuff, then you don't have these other options that fill the gap. So you don't have these options where you have higher sugars, and then your program seems to all fall into place. So really make these things a habit if you can. Now, I had some really good questions, and you guys are really, I mean, seriously, you're taking this very serious, and I love that because that means your questions are thoughtful and your questions are, you know, can even challenge me and ask me things that I have to go back and think about my education and then figure out if I know the right answer. And then of course, you know, there's good old Google. She can figure out a lot for me. But you know, one of the first things we talked about, I mean, one of the first questions I had on sugars was how much sugar per day should I be consuming? Now, so this is a question that requires a lot of work on your part. It's not necessarily something I can say, well, you shouldn't have more than 25 grams of sugar a day. That really isn't the answer. The answer really is it all depends on your particular meal plan. So remember, sugar is a carbohydrate. It's broken out if you're using MyFitnessPal, or even as a breakout for sugar and fiber, so that tracks that very easily. You will notice when you put in foods that are high in sugar, all of a sudden or foods that you're eating, it'll be much higher in sugar than you realize, and you'll see that number skyrocket pretty quickly. But it really does depend on your particular meal plan and how many calories you need. I'm going to give you guys a little diagram in a minute that'll start to help kind of pull all this together, but keep in mind, it is a carbohydrate. So if you're hitting your calories and you're hitting your protein, and then your carbohydrate sits there in the middle of that 40 to 50%, if you are focused on getting your fiber content, your 25 grams as a female and 35 as a male, and you're trying to fit that into that carbo calories, then you should be limiting sugar already. It's a nature function of the way sugars and carbohydrates work. A product that is high in fiber is going to be low in sugar. So if you're making that trade-off for high fiber, you're likely making good decisions on sugar as well and keeping that low. So just track. I cannot stress enough how important tracking is. Now, when should I consume sugar? That was a really good question, because if you're going to have sugars, when should I consume them? Okay. Well, this is kind of dependent, again, on your daily routine. Now, if you're going to remember, sugars are converted to glucose and they give you energy. So if you're going to go to the gym first thing in the morning, let's say early before work or right before work or mid-morning or somewhere in there, then your body needs sugars pretty early in the day to be able to get to the gym and have the energy to burn it off, so that it doesn't waste muscle in the process. If you're going to the gym mid-afternoon, then you might not have as much sugar in the morning. Sugars in the morning, you might want to kind of fill maybe another piece of fruit or something midday before you go to the gym, so you've got those extra carbs in the system. Now, it really, really does depend on where your energy levels start to fall and where you need that in order to get to the gym, and do your workouts and have that in your workouts. Now, clearly, none of us are going to go running at midnight. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I have clients that do go running at midnight, because it's the easiest time for them. But if you're going to go to bed at 11 o'clock or 12 or whenever you go to bed, then it probably isn't going to require any extra calories to sleep. And so you wouldn't want to consume a bunch of sugar right before you go to bed. The body's not going to use those calories. It doesn't know what to do with them. The blood sugar spikes, and all kinds of things can go wrong at that point. And if you get really in tune, this is a common situation, if you get really in tune to your body and you consume sugars right before you go to bed, you actually will be able to tell it. I actually have restless leg syndrome from excess sugars in my diet if I eat them too late in the day. And I never realized where that came from until I just got super focused on what my body does with different nutrients. And sugar is one of the triggers for restless leg syndrome. So that happens to me, and I'll notice it if I go out and eat dinner late with friends, or maybe have a cocktail late in the evening, that I will feel that much more prevalent after that. So it just depends on your program. Now, also, this question I've heard: fruit sugar is okay, so I can just eat as much as I want. That's a common question I get a lot, and I agree that fructose is fruit sugar. It is a much healthier sugar than all the other sugars that you can put, because it is a natural sugar, naturally occurring sugar in fruits. But keep in mind, it's still sugar, it's still calories. And so if you're putting it in your journal, if you're putting it in your MyFitnessPal, you'll start to see what will happen is people will say, well, I'm kind of hungry, so I'll just eat another banana. And I'm kind of hungry 2 hours later, so I'll have another orange. And I'm kind of hungry before I go to bed, so I had another banana. And then all of a sudden, when you look at your meal plan, you realize that those things are like 19 or 20 some grams of sugar. And although they're fructose and they're natural sugars, they're still sugars. And so you can still overload your body in sugars just because you think you're making a healthy choice with fruit. So be very careful with fruit. It's one of the biggest culprits of calories that people have in their smoothies. When I hear people say smoothies, I think you guys have heard me say this, people will start off with some protein powder or milk, and then they add like a cup of blueberries and a cup of strawberries and a whole banana. Well, that thing's got 45 grams of sugar in it. You might as well, if you guys saw my Facebook post this week about the unicorn frappuccino at Starbucks, which I hate to pick on Starbucks about it, but now you might as well go and have something like that, because it has as much sugar as some type of sweetened coffee product that you can get there. So be very careful with fruit and don't overload your body with those calories. Now, I had some questions about fiber, and the ratio of soluble to insoluble was one of the questions. What is the ratio, a healthy ratio between the two? And although it's not really that necessary, I will tell you the ratio is 3-to-1 soluble to insoluble, but it's not that necessary, because naturally occurring fibers in nature, and the foods that you're eating, if you're consuming foods that are high in fiber, they're naturally 3-to-1 in that ratio, kind of by nature. So you really don't have to worry about that much. You won't see a big problem if you're just following a healthy fiber diet. And so that'll take care of itself. Over-the-counter fiber supplements. So this is really we'll touch on both of these at the same time. Over-the-counter fiber supplements was a question I got from someone who said, well, I just can't reach my fiber number. And I'm hitting it like, getting 8 grams of fiber a day, and I really need to hit 25. And so I purchased an over-the-counter fiber supplement. It's the one, again, I don't like using names, but it's the one in the orange and white container, orange lid. And those products serve a purpose because they're quick fiber, they're easy fiber, they're very digestible fiber. But the problem is it's psyllium husk. And psyllium husk is all insoluble fiber. Now, I just told you the ratio was 3 to 1. So you need 3 times as much soluble fiber as you need insoluble. But yet, the psyllium husk is 80% insoluble fiber. So the ratio is just completely backwards to what your body needs. And so what will happen is people will consume the over-the-counter fiber supplement, and all of a sudden they'll start having extreme digestive problems from it. And it's because of these products. And so do your best not to use an over-the-counter fiber supplement. Try your very best to get your fiber from your food and not from an additive. If there are just no way you're hitting these numbers, we'll talk about some other options. I do have some other fiber supplement options that might work, but for right now, I really want you to try to eat that fiber in real food. Now, I had 2 additional notes. They were not necessarily part of these 2 topics, but I want to make a couple of clarifications. The first one, I've had several of you guys really challenge some questions on these calories on your meal plan. And so I know they're tough. I know some of the calories are strict and some of them are really tough, but I want you to think about a couple of things when we do this. Let me see if this works. Yeah, okay. So keep in mind when you're starting to look at calories that I'm going to use these two kind of constants right here, these 1,500 calories. So 1,500 calories is your resting calorie consumption. This is what your body's going to burn at rest automatically, just doing nothing, getting out of bed, doing whatever. Your body has about a 300 calorie, give or take, per day before it sees any major problem. So technically you could go down to 1,200 calories or up to 1,800 calories and your body really doesn't see a big difference. You go below that or above that, the body starts doing storage things for survival reasons or excess reasons, okay? And so you just want to be careful to stay within that 300 plus or minus range. And if we keep 100 grams of protein, if that's your protein number, if you keep it constant, then that doesn't change no matter what happens with your calories or what happens with your workouts. Okay, but here's what happens. So some of you on your wellness forms indicated that you were a level 1 or level 2 or level 3 fitness, but I also made an assumption that you were going to be doing these BalanceBurn classes at least 3 days a week. And so if you're doing BalanceBurn, I'm going to, again, making an assumption that you're burning about 500 calories per class. Some of you are going to burn more, some of you are going to burn less. Some of you do 2 classes a day. Some of you are going swimming in the morning and going to class and running and doing all these different things. So everybody is different, so keep that in mind. But for this example, I'm going to say that today, my resting rate is 1,500 calories, and I'm having that 300 calorie variance with 100 grams of protein. But I did BalanceBurn, so I'm going to give myself additional 500 calories, which gives me a total of 2,000 calories with that 300 plus or minus range. So that was today. That's what my body needed. If I want to lose weight, if I'm looking to lose weight and not burn muscle, I don't want to lose my muscle, but I just want to lose weight, then I have to be on the lower end of that calorie range. So with my plus or minus 300, that's going to take me down to about 1,700 calories, correct? So I want to be around 1,700 calories if I'm burning around 500 at the gym. If I want to maintain my weight or I'm wanting to build lean muscle and I still want to stay within that healthy range, of course, I can go all the way up to 2,300 calories. So there's my calorie range. And so some of you who, depending on your goals, your range may be on the upper end of that, it may be on the lower end of that based off of your resting metabolic rate. It's the reason I gave you your resting metabolic number, so that you know that. Now, some of you we've adjusted accordingly because you're working out more. Some of you are wearing Fitbits on your arm or heart rate monitors, and you're burning 1,000 calories in the gym, and so that number is changing. But use this 300 calorie plus or minus with your calories that I gave you, plus what you're doing at the gym to get that range of numbers. What's going to happen, you'll find, is that if the number I gave you balances out when you do your post-workout routine, should counterbalance those calories that you just put in your body. It should automatically give you those calories that your body needs to make up the difference that you were in the gym, okay? So that was a good question. The other one was consistency. I've had a bunch of you guys, and I'm going to throw out a term that I use often. The term is 100-hour pilot. If you guys remember JFK Jr., he flew his airplane through a storm and thought he could fly it through the storm and ended up killing everybody on the plane because he was 100 hours behind his pilot license. He did not have the training to do what he was doing, but he thought, well, heck, I can fly this plane, and he did, and he ended up killing himself and everybody else. And I call you guys 100-hour pilots because you're beginning to learn, and you're doing fantastic work. You're on target. You're doing great. But don't get ahead of yourself and think, I got this. I can start changing my meal plan and do my own thing. Remember, consistency always wins the race. Consistency, consistency. And so you're not quite ready to fly yet. So stick with your program. Stick with your plan. If you need to make changes, let me know. We can work on it. But try your best to just start these habits. You guys are only in week 4. There's a lot of work left to do, and so just take your time and be consistent with it. All right, so today's topic, we're going to move on. Today's topics are fats, which is our third macronutrient with protein, carbs, and fats, and we're also going to talk about digestive health. So fats, the first talk about fats are broken down into 3 categories. We have saturated, polyunsaturated, and monounsaturated. Now, don't get so bogged down in all the technical terms of them or whatever. That we're gonna break this down a little bit, and then kind of round out about what the healthy part is. So saturated fats tend to raise the blood cholesterol level. These are found in meats and cheeses and ice creams, as well as hydrogenated vegetable oils. Now, hydrogenated vegetable oils are oils that have been altered so that they remain hard at room temperature. And you know, those products that are in the grocery store, they come in cans or solid. They're not like liquid fats. They produce trans fatty acids, which are the bad things. You don't want the trans fats in your diet because they raise the blood cholesterol level and cause heart attacks. And so you want to avoid the trans fats. And so anything that's hydrogenated, if it's a fat that has been changed, altered in its natural form to remain solid at room temperature, then you should be avoiding that particular fat source. Polyunsaturated, they can be good or bad. And you guys know I hate the term good or bad, but this is one of the places that we use good or bad, depending on whether they are primarily omega-6 fatty acids, fats, or omega-3 fats, because the omega-6s are the ones that are pro-inflammatory. Those are the ones that are causing problems. Now, our body needs both of these. It just needs them in the right amounts. And so, unfortunately, the omega-6s are starting to creep up in our diets, and we're having problems from it. And so you see right there, the richest source of omega-6 comes from corn oil. Now, we know that corn and corn products and corn oil is added to everything. I mean, it's just in everything these days. Corn is so cheap. And that's one of the problems with omega-6s being so high in our food source. And the richest source of omega-3 is from fish, flaxseed, and vegetables. And so you see the little picture at the bottom there. That's just a great source of omega-3 fats to help your body get what it needs. Now, while small amounts of omega-3 and omega-6 are called essential, meaning the body can make them, they're required in very small amounts, but can be met in plant products. So, you know, you can eat all the plant materials like avocados and nuts and olives and things like that and get these things in the body. You don't have to necessarily supplement all the time, but most of us do not have diets that have enough omega-3s in it. We just don't eat those things. And so to balance out, we need to take a supplement. That's why I recommend a good, healthy omega-3 for most people, because we just don't get them in our diets. And we want to make sure that we get them. Our diets are typically overloaded in omega-6 fatty acids and very inadequate amounts of omega-3s. This imbalance with too many bad fats relative to good fats promotes the inflammatory process, which leads to asthma, heart disease, and many forms of cancer. I actually have clients who have severe asthma and nasal problems and mucus problems in their sinuses. And as soon as we get their fat balance back into process and usually take out lactose as well, which is also an inflammatory problem, then a lot of those things will subside. And so, you know, a lot of times those things that we eat contribute to the problems. Now, the third type of fat is the monounsaturated fats. These are good, healthy fats. These are the things that we definitely need found in olive oil and avocado because they have a neutral effect on cholesterol and do not promote cancer. These are the fats that we consider to be healthy and should be eaten in moderation. Remember also, again, not to overdo these kind of things, any kind of thing. When you start tracking, you'll start to see also, we'll make those healthy shifts where we'll start eating almonds all the time because that seems to be a healthy option, or we'll add avocado to our salads because it's a good healthy fat. But the problem, again, when you're making these healthy shifts is not to overdo them, because all of a sudden we'll find out that we're eating handfuls of almonds because we think that that's a healthy choice, when we don't realize how many calories we're putting in and how much fats we're putting in our body. The same thing with avocados. It's very easy to overdo calories and fats from avocado. All right, I gave you this chart because I think this is really good for us when we're making healthy decisions on like oils that we use with our food, cooking oils. And one of them that I really want to make mention on here, you know, if you kind of look down this list, well, first off, canola oil, by far the healthiest fat that we can use in any of our diets. It's very, very low in saturated fats. It's very, very high in oleic fat, which is the very, very healthy omega-9s. And then it's kind of a good balance of your polyunsaturated fats. And so this is a fantastic one. We've known this for a long time. Canola oil has been highly regarded as a healthy, safe oil to be added into our diet, as well as safflower and flaxseed. You'll see flaxseed there is very, very high in omega-3s. In fact, flax seeds are really good to add into your diet in general because they're fairly high in protein and fiber and everything, plus they're a healthy source of omega-3s. But slide down that list and you'll see things like I grew up on lard. My family used lard and everything. But you know, then you have like palm oil and butter that you're automatically thinking that lard and butter should be the worst. But look down there at the very bottom when you have coconut oil. It's so high in saturated fats. It's termed as a really healthy oil alternative in our diets, but you have to be very careful to use it in moderation because it's very high in saturated fats and very low in virtually no omega-3s. And so just be very careful with your fat choices. I gave you this graph to be able to use because I'm sure some of you have made changes in your diet and looking at these oils going, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that. So just stick with good old canola oil. It's very healthy for you. And then here's a great one. I'm probably going to throw this graph up into the Facebook group for you guys. A great source of omega-6. So this is an omega-6 graph, but it also shows you all the different types of foods that are high in omega-6 and omega-3. They're, by the way, going to be high in both omega-3 and omega-6s. But if you're using these in place of, as we talked last week, things like farm-raised salmon, where it's raised under stress, and your omega-6s are no longer healthy in that particular food, you want to be careful with those. But these are some really good alternatives to stay over towards this right column, using these red ones as your source of omega-3s over here. You know, omega-3s and omega-6s, these are all fairly healthy options. So just be very cognizant of the types of food you're eating and where these omega-3s and omega-6s fall. All right, so let's see. Tips for reducing our overall fat intake. I love this because we always need ways to maybe help make healthy choices and what we can do with it. All right, again, not. All right, come on. There we go. So use pan spray when you're sauteing food. And so instead of using one of the oils in your pans, use a pan spray. They're very, very healthy for you. There's some that even have like a small little bit of butter flavor to them. And so use those in your pans. A non-stick skillet with a little bit of pan spray will saute your food just as nicely and reduce the fat intake tremendously. Also, how about sauteing in a little bit of wine or some chicken stock or broth? You can get the low sodium, low calorie broths in the store. You can put that in there and make it with it. In fact, a lot of times even just in general, instead of using water or anything like that, like to make my rice or things, I will use a broth in it so that it gives it a little more flavor, that I don't have to add salt and other things to it to make it taste like anything. But sauteing in a little bit of wine is a healthier option than using your fats. Non-fat and reduced fat versions of high-fat items such as dairy products, spreads, and dressings. I love this one because it's we automatically assume that using the low-fat version of anything is the healthier version. But really, really, really read your labels. As Melissa found out this morning and looking at a label afterwards, when you start looking at labels, if you take Greek yogurt, for example, and you take a full fat Greek yogurt and you take the 0% fat Greek yogurt and you turn both of the labels around and compare the two of them, you will find that although the protein levels are very similar, usually a little higher in the full fat, But the sugar content in the zero fat is nearly double, sometimes triple the sugar content that you'll get from the full fat or the 2%. And so typically I suggest using the 2% version of just about everything because it typically has the most protein and the lowest sugar of all the different versions and has a healthier version, a healthier amount of fat in it than you would for the full fat version. And so be very, very careful with these things using the non-fat, reduced fat options, that you know what your calorie content and your sugar content is. Avoid fatty meats like steaks and high-fat ground meats, chops and sausages. These things have a lot of extra fat added into them. It's what makes them juicy and makes them moist and tender is the added fat to them. And so just be very careful about these and make sure you know what you're eating. And one of the suggestions is to make sure that you have a variety of proteins. I don't say that you should ever cut out the red meats or anything from your diet, but definitely don't have them every single day in your program. Eat more poultry, fish, shellfish, eggs, non-fat dairy products or low-fat dairy products, soy proteins and protein which have much less fat than red meat. And so try to really make a broad scope of everything in your diet to get a full version of protein, and your body can get all the amino acids it needs from all these different types of protein. I think there's one last thing. Avoiding farmed salmon. We talked about that last week. It's just too high in the extra fat that does not contain those omega-3s. So just be very careful with the farmed salmon that's out there. Oh, and despite the myth, the myth that shellfish is not good for you, it's actually not high in cholesterol, is an excellent source of protein, which is also low in fat. So shellfish should be added if you're a shellfish eater. Don't worry about them. What makes shellfish typically bad for you is that people tend to want to dip shellfish into butter product, which is usually not really butter, but can be butter, but that is typically a hydrogenated fat. So just be very careful with what you dip your shellfish in and what's in it, but eating shellfish itself is not unhealthy. Some more tips. Flavor your foods with herbs, spices, lemon, garlic, onions, chilies, and other seasonings rather than relying on heavy sauces, gravies, and butters. Now, it's also a really good thing to think about when you're going out to eat, because when you look at a meal and it says, with a side of gravy, or it'll say something about a sauce or things like this, make sure that you know what they're talking about, because this automatically implies that it's going to be in high fat. In order to make a gravy or a sauce, it's usually made starting with some type of fat or roux, and those are always high in calorie and high in fat. So be careful with that and just learn to use. There's all kinds of herbs and seasonings out there. I mean, gosh, there's so many ethnic foods that's just their source of flavor in general. There's just not a lot of fat in the diet. It's just a lot of herbs, and so learn to use these herbs. I suggest really doing some education on different types of food from other parts of the world to just try different things. There's so much healthier options if you learn how to use flavors from other parts of the world and use herbs that are maybe indigenous to another area, and learn how to cook something different. And I would encourage you guys to post those in the Facebook group. So when you eat out, try to make smart choices. Keep sauces and gravies to a minimum. Order meats, fish, and poultry grilled, poached, steamed, roasted, and baked. Keep in mind when you look at the menu and it says how the meat is prepared or how the food is prepared, there are certain key words that are just not as healthy as others. So of course, fried, some other things are just not healthy. If you really look at things that are grilled and broiled, those are your healthy options. It implies there's less fat on them. They haven't used fats to cook them, and so they're healthier options for you. All right, some people skip the starchy part of the meal, especially if it's likely to be fatty, and just double order the vegetables. And so that should be an automatic thing for most of you, trying to limit these high sugar carbohydrates, limiting potatoes and limiting rices and things that are just high in high glycemic index carbohydrates, and replace those with more vegetables, or replace it with a nice little salad. I think this is a tip on here. If not, yep. Order the salad dressing on the side so you can control how much you eat. Restaurants often drench their salads in just high fat dressings. Now, I have a great tip here that I used when I first started, because for some reason I grew up in a house where salad dressing, we always ordered double salad dressing, and we always just poured it on the salad and ate all of it. But when I started this, someone gave me a tip. I don't remember who, but they gave me a tip to keep the salad dressing on the side and take my fork and dip my salad dressing into the container, and then it's just on the fork, and then just grab my salad with it and eat my salad that way. So I'm not mixing it into my salad, I'm actually getting it on my fork. And as it goes into the mouth, of course, you get the flavor with it. And it's almost sickening when you're done with your salad how much salad dressing is still left in the ramekin. It's almost like you haven't even touched it. So really, maybe give that a try next time you go to a restaurant and get a salad, and make sure that the salad dressing's on the side, and just give that a little try. Just dip the fork in, eat your salad, and then go, oh my gosh, I've got like a whole salad dressing ramekin left. It's ridiculous what they give you. Try fresh fruits or sorbets for dessert rather than the pastries or ice cream. Of course, these things are healthier, but also keep in mind, just because you want a dessert doesn't mean that it necessarily fits your meal plan. So look at your meal plan, know where you need to be. If it's even if it's fruit and sorbet and things like that, that it might be high in fructose and sugars, it still might not be a part of your healthy program. Just keep that in mind. But it is a better alternative than eating the pastry or the ice cream. All right, I think that is our topic on fats. All right, let's move to our second topic, that is on digestive health. So the digestive system is one of the most essential components of the entire body. Of course, it takes care of everything. It has to do with so many of the systems in our body. That digestive health can affect other areas of our healthy weight, our energy, our skin, our immunity, in ways that we never thought possible. And you know, what we eat is true. And in fact, I think Melissa even said this earlier, we are what we eat. I'm so surprised at results that people send to me. They don't even expect some of the results. As they make healthy alternatives, they find that their skin is clearing up and that their digestive system is clearing up, and they have normal bowel movements, and all their maybe immune system, like their allergies, start to go away just by feeding the body properly. Your digestive system, you know, it houses so much of your immune system that if we feed it properly and keep it healthy, then our body overall is healthy. And so, you know, keep that in mind. You're feeding your body. What all the things that you're feeding your body is how it takes care of itself, and so it has to be healthy. To get the most from your weight loss program, I often suggest that people start with some type of cleansing program. Now, I don't give this to you in the beginning for a couple of reasons. Most people think, oh, yes, he said do a cleanse, and you run out and you do this massive cleanse of some kind, or some crazy cleanse, and you end up losing like 5 or 6, 7, 8 pounds the first week because of this cleanse. And you think everything's great, and all of a sudden, you know, you're like, yeah, this is an awesome program. I'm doing really well. I've lost like 8 pounds this week. When really it just came from the cleanse. It really didn't come from you making any healthy shifts. And so I don't put that in the very beginning, because I don't want to help you. I don't want to enable you to use things like cleanses or whatever just to get results. But it is something that you should be doing. In fact, I also encourage people to do a cleanse about every quarter. So about every 3 or 4 months, I'm going to do a cleanse myself. And so I've listed here some things that you might want to do for your cleanse. Now, a cleanse is some healthy components of a cleanse is by adding soothing aloe to improve your digestive. Now, aloe has been around for thousands of years and has been used in all types of situations. From, most people know it from like using it on burns or things like that. They'll have an aloe plant, they'll cut it and use it on their burn. It's an effective use for that. But aloe itself, the liquid can be extracted from the plant and used as a dietary supplement. And what this does is, just as if it repairs the skin on the outside, it can repair the digestive system on the inside. So it's a great tool for people who have indigestion or heartburn, or just an upset stomach in general. But aloe is tricky, because aloe is not necessarily all created equally as everything. And so there are lots of aloe products out there, and you have to be very, very careful for one reason mainly. First off, most aloes taste horrible. They have this weird taste. It's almost a burning taste. And then a lot of it has these little chunky bits in it that are just not good. I don't know. They're just part of the plant that comes with the extraction method, and they just end up in it, and it's quite gross. So I don't recommend those at all for a lot of reasons. But also, a lot of aloe, in fact, most aloe products do not remove, part of the aloe process does not remove the product called aloin. So aloin is one of the substances in aloe, and it is highly, highly irritant to the digestive system and causes diarrhea. So you want to be careful that the product does not have aloin in it, because it can definitely upset your digestive system. You also want to make sure you have a little bit of excess fiber during this part, so that your body can regulate itself, the water balance in the body, and help flush all the toxins out of the body at the same time. And then the third component to a really good cleanse is to have a digestive friendly bacteria. Your body has healthy bacteria that live in the digestive system, and you need to make sure that it stays healthy, or that it's replaced. So anytime you go on an antibiotic of something, so let's say you get a cold and your doctor prescribes an antibiotic from you, of course it kills all the bacteria in your body. And so now your digestive system, you didn't realize this, most of you probably have never even thought about this, but now your digestive system has to rebuild itself because you've killed most of the bacteria off, and so therefore you're going to have an upset stomach. A lot of antibiotics cause an upset stomach for that reason. It's one of the side effects of an antibiotic. It's one of the reasons I can't take antibiotics, because it severely upsets my digestive system. So by adding aloe, fiber, and a probiotic, which is a healthy bacteria, to your body, you can create a really nice cleanse for it. So I gave you 3 options on here that give you some good cleansing. In fact, I gave you a couple of aloes too. So there is a really good aloe. I actually use this aloe on the regular. It comes in several flavors. It's a liquid concentrate. You just put it in my water. In fact, I have it just in my refrigerator, and I dump it in water, or my protein drink mix. I dump it in there all the time. It's really, really healthy. You cannot overdose on aloe. So I just drink it all the time. And then there's a really good Nature's Secret has a fantastic probiotic. If you're not on a probiotic, you might want to check that out, especially if you're going to do a cleanse. These are 2 really good components of it. But these 3 companies have a really good cleanse package that I recommend. The first one is a 21-day cleanse from Herbalife. It's 2 tablets in the morning and 2 at night. 1 cleanses and 1 soothes. I promise you, and I promise you, all 3 of these do not send you to the bathroom on the regular. They're very, very gentle with you. And then Irwin Naturals is an all-natural product. I believe it's 2 tablets, 2 tablets in the morning, 2 tablets at night as well. And then Ultimate Cleanse, that's a Nature's Secret product. The Ultimate, there's several cleanses in Nature's Secrets. The Ultimate Cleanse actually has a soothing part added to it. Most of their cleanses do not have a soothing component, and they can just upset your stomach a little bit more. This actually has a little more probiotic added to it. So those are 3 good recommendations for a complete cleanse product. And then of course I have the recommendation for aloe and probiotic over there. These are all really good parts to a good healthy program, not something necessarily with the cleanse that you're going to take all the time, but you probably want to think about doing something like that, at least if not immediately, do it sometime soon. All right, let's talk a little bit about digestible facts. Small intestine is where the majority of digestion and absorption takes place. So small intestine is all of the stuff down here below our gut. There's a lot of small intestine. It's where so much of digestion is taking place. And so it's very, very, very important that it's healthy and that you're fueling it properly and you're giving it good stuff so that it doesn't get upset with us. The majority of Americans consume only 14 grams of fiber. We've already talked about the amount of fiber you guys need, guys. I can't stress to you how important getting your good fiber in your body is. This will really, really, really help your digestive system regulate itself so much better if you can learn to hit that fiber numbers. Okay, so we're going to do a little quiz. I told you guys to grab a pen and paper. Got a quick little quiz here. No need to shout out answers. I can't really see you guys. I can see that there might be a question, but I can't really get to it right now. So I'm going to just give you guys these. But think about this for a minute as I'm calling out the answers. How long is the digestive tract of an adult, the average adult, basically from where the food comes in to where the food comes out? How long is that digestive tract in a healthy adult? Is it 5 feet long? Is it 12 feet long? Is it 30 feet long? Or is it 100 feet long? 5 feet, 12 feet, 30 feet, or 100 feet? Okay, so the actual answer to this is C, 30 feet long. And so you have about this much space from your mouth to your stomach. and then your stomach sits here, and then after that, we're talking intestines all the way through. So there's a significant amount of intestines that sit all jumbled down in here that begin to do all of that work. And so your stomach is really the place where the acids are put into it, the food is started to break down, and all of that absorption takes place down here. So there's a tremendous amount of surface area in those intestines, in that digestive system, for you to start the absorption process and have that in there. But the one reason I want to talk, I'm not going to talk about that because there's another question on this. All right, question number 2. On average, how long does it take for food to move through the stomach and small intestines? So after you eat, how long does it take it to move through the stomach and small intestines and basically kind of finish its process? 20 minutes. B, 6 to 8 hours. C, 48 hours. And D, 2 days. So how long does it take food to move through the stomach and small intestines? Let's see. Well, the answer is B. It takes 6 to 8 hours for food to move through that digestive system to be settled into the large intestines. Now, the reason that this is an important question is it comes about for a lot of people about eating late, because they hear this and they say, well, if I'm not going to eat, or if I eat dinner too late, then my body's just going to stop and it's going to sit there, and it needs 6 to 8 hours to get through my digestive system to be able to function. And so that's one of the reasons that a lot of people begin to think that they shouldn't eat, past 7 o'clock or so, because that way most of the food has gone through the digestive system before they go to bed. And that's simply not true. It is true that it takes 6 to 8 hours for food to go through the digestive system, but it isn't true that your body just stops in that process. The body is still going to continue moving food through the digestive system even when you sleep. And so we've had this conversation before where, don't think that you can't eat past a certain time of the night. If you're still needing calories and your body still needs protein to rebuild itself, it isn't a bad thing to eat at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night if it fits your meal plan, if you can afford the calories. So my main point in all that is don't worry about time of day. Worry about spreading food around the time that you're awake so that your body can be fueled properly. But it does take 6 to 8 hours for the food to move through the digestive system. Question 3, which of the following foods would most likely cause heartburn? A, chocolate, tomato juice, and mint. B, chili peppers, lemon, and ginger. C, beer, chips, and guacamole. D, grapefruit, pickles, and cheese. Now, I gotta be honest with you, I didn't write this question, but I don't know that I would do any of these things together. It would all probably give me heartburn if I ate them all together. But the point is with this is we're talking about the types of food they are and what happens when they go into the digestive system, how they might cause an increase in the body's response to them and cause acid reflux and heartburn. So the answer to this one for this one is A, chocolate, tomatoes, and tomato juice and mint. And it is because these are the three things. These are three things that cause your body's digestive system to emit a lot more acids into the digestive system to be able to digest these things. And they create an excess acid through the digestive system, which can creep up into the chest, up into the esophagus, and cause this heartburn effect or acid reflux in a lot of people. And so, that might be something that's causing it. But I will tell you, a lot of foods cause heartburn because of the acid reflux that come with it. But chocolate, tomato juice, and mint in this group is the biggest culprit. Number 4, you would be considered constipated if. Now, I know, I say it all the time. I talk poop all the time, but poop is part of nutrition. You have to poop, you have to poop, you have to poop. And so we talk about poop a lot. You would be considered constipated if you go longer than a day without a bowel movement. So if you go longer than a full day without a bowel movement. Number B, you don't have a bowel movement after each meal. C, your stools are hard and difficult to pass. Or D, you don't have a bowel movement at the same time every day and each day. Now, I know I've got customers and clients and people in my life who are just regular. They are on track and on target at the same time, the same place, the same thing every single day. They are regular. I also have clients that have all these different things. But the one thing, the one answer on here that is considered constipated, the technical term for being constipated is C, that your stool is too hard and difficult to pass. That's what creates the constipation problem. And we just talked about that back over in talking about fiber and how this affects the stool. And so if that's the problem, then increasing your fiber will increase the water absorption into the digestive system so that it can pass those stools much easier. Now, I will tell you guys this, and this is a topic that I talk again all the time, so I'm comfortable talking poop. I will tell you, most women on average that I talk with are less frequent to their bathroom visits than men are. And I don't really know why that is, why that tends to be the trend, but it is the trend. And I even have clients that come to me and tell me that they only have maybe 2 or 3 bowel movements a week. And I will tell you, if that is your situation, if that is the case for you, then I really do want you to consider adding some fiber into your diet. That not only is it's just better for your digestive system to be flushing out toxins much quicker than every 3 or 4 days or every 2 to 3 days. But it can be doing some damage to your digestive system by sitting there in your digestive system. So we need to get that moving a little quicker. I actually have a client who she came to me and she was only pooping once a week. And funny little thing, she went to her doctor. She was having severe back pain. She went to her doctor. They couldn't figure out what was causing her back pain. They wanted to do an x-ray to see if there was something wrong in her lower back or in her back. And they pulled the x-ray and they put it on the wall, and the doctor says, well, you're full of crap. And she's like, no, I really, really hurt. My back just will not stop hurting. He said, no, legitimately, you're full of crap. And it was then when she told me, she's like, I had no idea that I should be going to the bathroom more than once a week. And we put her on a good cleanse product and got her diet straightened out. And now she's regular. And she lost like 15 pounds in 2 weeks just from getting her body cleansed out. So, again, I know poop isn't for everybody, but I talk about it every day. So, let me know if you need help on that. Number 5, most ulcers are caused by eating too much spicy foods on an empty stomach. B, a bacterial infection in the lining of the stomach. C, obesity. Or D, drinking too much soda. Which one of these causes ulcers, or is the culprit for most ulcers, the most common culprit? So the answer for this is actually B. It's a bacterial infection in the lining of the stomach. And so it's definitely something that you want to take care of. If you have ulcers on the regular, you want to make sure that it's being taken care of. Now, these are stomach ulcers, not necessarily esophageal ulcers. If you have ulcerations in your esophagus, that's usually coming from acid reflux. That's a different situation. But a bacterial ulcer, ulcers in the stomach, usually come from a bacterial infection. You definitely want to make sure that we get that taken care of. But I will tell you that all of these situations, people will say stuff that they do have problems with them, or that does cause ulcers. But the bacterial infection is the biggest culprit of this. And number 6, irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS as we know it, is difficult to diagnose because, now I do have a lot of clients that come to me and say they have IBS. And a lot of times the doctor will just throw IBS out there with somebody just because it's an easy diagnosis or because it's a difficult diagnosis. There's so many variables in IBS. And so I want to talk about this for a minute because symptoms can vary from person to person. It's difficult to diagnose this because of A or B. It strikes more men and women, and men just don't go to the doctor because that's true. I hate going to the doctor. Men hate the doctor. But is this the reason that there's more women than men? C, it can cause diarrhea or constipation, therefore it's difficult to diagnose. Or D, it's the same thing as lactose intolerance. Because I get that a lot too. People say, no, I'm just lactose intolerant, I don't have IBS. And so sometimes there's a disparity between the two of them. So the answer of this one, A, symptoms can vary from person to person. It's very difficult because the symptoms are very different, but this one has 2 answers. C, it can cause both diarrhea and constipation. The symptoms are all over the place with IBS, and so it is very difficult to diagnose. I will tell you that a lot of clients that come to me with IBS, it really is just kind of taking everything out of their diet that can cause some type of irritant, reducing the acid foods, adding some fiber into their diet, getting their bodies back into a good routine, and then adding stuff in and figuring out what's causing the irritations. And typically, by just starting at ground zero and building, we can determine what's causing this. But it can be caused by so many different reasons, is the reason it's so difficult. All right, so that's it for the topics tonight. Really quick little housekeeping now. It is time to get back on my schedule. Some of you are still haven't gotten your first call in with me yet. Some of you are still just working on some things and we haven't gotten you scheduled yet. I've got a couple of you scheduled for this week, but for those of you who have already scheduled and we talked a couple weeks ago, it's time to go ahead and get on my schedule again. I will be sending out an email probably tomorrow or Wednesday that will have openings on the schedule for later this week and next week, and that will give us a time to chat about what's going on. It's definitely past our midway point in this challenge, and I want to make sure that we're heading into this final stretch on a positive note, kind of focused on where we're going. So let's get on the phone, let's chat about it, and get your one-on-one scheduled. So be looking for an email from me on that. Make sure, some of you still haven't connected the MyFitnessPal if you're using it or haven't figured that out part yet on sharing your journals with me. Some of us are connected on MyFitnessPal, but the journals are still not shared. So make sure that you're doing that, because I can't check your journals, I can't hold you accountable, and I can't send you nasty grams if I don't see your journals. So and then social media, I can't stress enough social media. Social media not only just helps build the community together and keeps everybody centered together, but you know, we draw on each other's energy and each other's positivity and each other's situations and each other's stories, and social media really helps us connect that. And I just encourage you to be connected socially so that help drives you into this. Tracking, keep tracking. I can't say this enough. I mean, I know you guys hate me for saying tracking all the time, but almost every single time that I talk with you guys that there's a problem or you're concerned about something, the tracking just isn't complete. I mean, some of you are fantastic at it. You're doing great, and I love it, because I was horrible at it in the beginning, and I get it. I hated it. But if you're not tracking, it's so difficult for me to know what's going wrong and where your challenges are. I mean, I know where the challenge is. The challenge is tracking. So if we can get tracking fixed, then we can start figuring out what's going wrong in the program and what's happening through the day and what's not in balance. And so get to tracking, and keep tracking over and over. And then I'm going to post this video because we had this scheduling change. I'm going to post this tomorrow morning. So you guys rewatch this. There's lots of information on here. We went really quickly through a lot of it. I'll rewatch it again and check and see if there's anything that you missed. And then next week topics, two topics again, two really, really good topics. One of them is meal planning, and so we're going to talk about meal prep and meal planning. You guys should be on track with this already, so this is probably just a recap for some of you or most of you, but just some really good tips on meal planning and meal prepping. And then we're also going to dive into nutrition labels, how to read nutrition labels, and how to kind of debunk some of the problems that are on it. We talked a little bit about that earlier. I'm going to also give you a couple little graphs that are good little tools to might help you be able to plan out your weeks, and maybe a shopping list and things like that. So you'll have some tools. So next week's going to be packed full of information. It's going to be a great webinar to me, and we will do next week's on Tuesday night. So we will be back on our regular schedule. So don't come see me on Monday. We'll be getting together next Tuesday night at 7:30. All right, I think that is it for the topics tonight. So I'm going to shut this down, stop this, and then stop the recording, and then we'll get to some questions. So for the guys who are not on here live and are going to watch this later, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching the video. Hope there's tons of information here, and hopefully if you didn't make it on tonight, you'll make it on next week and are part of the question and answer section, because that's incredibly valuable. So join us next week.